Greetings, travelers.
Greetings, travelers. It's Erika and Mark in Mythic March.
I love that so much. It gets me.
I'm going on tour with Pavarotti. Is he still around?
Is Destiny going to open for you all? Then I'm in.
Oh my God, Destiny should just be everything for us. That's what
true.
I have to say about that.
That's true. We're glad that she's doing well and healing nicely. So,
and we're going to have
Destiny,
some
all our
exciting news from her soon.
hopefully. So, travelers, all the best wishes to our wonderful musical
Siren.
Yeah, the siren of Halloween, Destiny Beard. She is doing much better, and thanks you all for her support.
Yeah, sending tons of love her way. But this is fun because we very soon are going to be doing these differently. But we are going to do, because it's been a little while, a listener tales episode, which I love.
Yes, and then starting soon, we'll actually be recording them live on Patreon. Eventually, they will come here for you all, but our Patreon members will get them live, so they can even react and respond. So excited to set that up. Now that we have it all the technology stuff figured out, we're good. Now we're done with Facebook outages, hopefully, and all that other fun stuff. So.
Oh God, well, we'll see. We'll see.
AT&T outages and other things. We all know who it is. It's our wonderful boy Robert the Doll is now an employee of the tech giants. So
hey, if that works out for him, I'm very proud and happy for that handsome boy.
Yeah. But yeah, we have listener tales.
Yes,
we got tons of them. Thank you, gang. So if you want to send us more listener tales, go to eerietravels.com and just hit the contact us. There's a form. It comes straight to us. Now, as always with these, Erika and I do not read them ahead of time, except just peruse them a little bit. But we like to go in blind and react. So we're excited.
Do you want to start, Mark?
I can start with the first one.
Yay.
All right. So greetings, travelers.
Greetings.
Allow me to preface this by saying whether you believe me or not is completely understandable. Hey, we know how that goes. Even though I try to be open-minded, I also try to be very skeptical and use logic and science in most of my observations of things. Hey, you found your tribe.
Yeah.
I believe I've shared the story of the friendly spirit at the old Walker Memorial Hospital that is now a Dollar General and not the same building. Although I would not put that past Dollar General to open a store in an old abandoned hospital. I might have also shared one of the stories I believe about my father and my late grandmother's house in Maine. I have lots of stories from my childhood, both about the house that I grew up in and other adventures, and some involving some of my best friends. So here's a couple of stories from the bizarre ballad of our good friend Blindy. So this is one of our earliest fans who has still been with us always and is almost as much a part of the show as we are. This is our good friend Jake, who posts on almost every single YouTube video. I think of every episode. Jake is legally blind and has to listen on YouTube. So we appreciate all that you do, Jake. You're a member of the family. So we are excited to be reading one of your listener tales. So I'll read this first one, Erika. And do you want to read the second one? Does that sound good?
I'll do that.
Okay, so let's do that because this is 2 for 1 here, gang. So short story number 1, The Flickering. I like that he titled it. This story takes place when I believe I was in my early teens or late preteens. It's about the same. This story takes place in the house I grew up in that was pretty much across the street next to a nursing home. There's a lot of interesting energy attached to the house, both 1, because it was next to a nursing home, and 2, from what I found out later, that there are some negative things that happened to that house way before my immediate family owned it. I also found out that this property at one point was some kind of dump or junkyard, because one of the 2 favorite hobbies that I'd like to do outside, much to my parents' annoyance, was to bring home scrap metal, scrap wood, tree branches, and the like, and make primitive weapons and artify all sorts of old junk. This story also involves one of my lifetime best friends, which I'm one of those persons who ends up with multiple best friends. Hey, that sounds very familiar.
Very familiar.
Side note, I feel like you end up with the best friends or close friends at certain parts of your life because you're supposed to be in each other's lives for a specific reason. Agreed.
Yes.
Anyways, the best friend, I will call DWW, which is short for Dances with Wolves for personal reasons. I like that. I believe his brother had stayed the night once or twice as well, but one of his brothers. Anyways, on this particular evening in my bedroom, There's an older fluorescent shop light that was my overhead light in the bedroom. We had dealt with some spooky stuff before and had some other spooky adventures later on in our lives too. Well, we have been speaking about spooky stuff and spirits and whatnots, and I explained it before that they were some, let's say, energies or spirits involved around and in the house. So we went to bed and shut off the light. Occasionally, those old fluorescent lights will flicker from residual energy. Mine do it very often, and I feel like there's something else going on, and this is why. We would ask very specific questions, and the light would flicker a certain number of times to give us an answer.
Nope. Nope. Burn the house down.
Nope,
Nope. Not interested. Thank you anyway.
Convenient timing, and we tested this moderately thoroughly, at least what we considered to be such at the time in our young minds. It was quite interesting, and this is not the only interesting experience I had with DWW. This is the best members story that I can give because it just stands out in my mind because we had talked about it not too long ago. One of the things that he said was paraphrasing an older relative of his, and it was this: my religion does not allow me to believe in things like that. However, there's something definitely weird here. I will also have to think of some other interesting adventures and experiences with DWW. So, Jake, I have to say, there is this trend in the ghost hunting community that I am not a fan of, and that is talking to flashlights. People put those flashlights into their ghost hunting experiences and they twist them so that they're just at the point where they're barely making connection, right? And the light goes out. And then you can turn it on just by tapping it, right? And that makes the connection come back so it lights up. So they're saying, hey, the ghosts are tapping the light, and that's how we can say yes for no. Turn the light on if you can hear us. Turn the light off if you're not. Guys, there's some science to this. That is not talking to ghosts. You are talking to condensation. You are talking to the wires are slightly connected, and so they are still heating up and expanding. And when they expand, guess what? The light comes on. And then sometimes after they burn for a little bit, they'll cool off and then they'll disconnect and the light goes off. You are not, nothing is touching the light. Now, if it actually twisted the light and turned it on or off, that would be amazing. I'm sorry to debunk, but you're not talking to anything with that. My apologies, gang.
But this
Sorry,
is
little rant.
fluorescent lights. Do you think fluorescent lights that are plugged into the ceiling and he's shutting them off and they're still flashing on and off? Same
fluorescent
thing?
Still, they work on a different type of electricity, and they do still have, some stuff in there that can cause them to flicker and cause them to come on and off, especially older bulbs. This, I'm assuming, was from a decade or two ago. There's a reason we're switching to LEDs on everything now, because fluorescents aren't always the best for human eyes anyway. They're definitely not good for my eyesight with Mr. Epilepsy here. Fluorescents cause me all kinds of problems. So
you would not do well in this talking
no,
to
in this
ghost
situation,
experience.
I don't want to talk to fluorescent lights anyway, but to saying that, Jake, hey, we are blindy. We understand that's you may have been talking to something. I'm not going to debunk it, but I'm just going to say, don't talk to flashlights.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree. Okay, I'm going to read the second story. Here we go. Chills after a car crash. What? Why do I get this story? Okay. I swear you do this on purpose. The story, I think you meant story. The story takes place more or less in my hometown. House has a much older Tina, or in my early 20s. I think he means teens or early 20s.
He was in his teens or early 20s, yeah.
I was riding as a passenger, and my friend double stuffed sports car. I love these names. Jake, I need a name. I need a nickname. I'm just telling you, me and Mark want them immediately.
I like Dancing with Wolves myself, but
yeah, you don't get that one. Our friend already has it.
I already got that one. So
yeah. Which, by the way, they still own to this day. Wow, well done, Double
Stuff. I like Double Stuff's car there. So.
Yeah, Double Stuff and I had just talked to some other people at a local car show and had agreed to indulge in some recreational driving activities. Ooh, I'm not condoning this, and you should always go to a illegitimate place to conduct these activities. Wow, Jake, we're not condoning any of this here on your travels.
This is a listener tale. Again, listener tales, we do not research, we do not condone, we are just reading the letters. So
yes. So ourselves and other drivers went to some back roads that were commonly used for these activities. There are many in our area and at least a handful, and we both did safety checks up and down the roads to make sure the roads were completely clear. Those were being used often to make sure everything was safe as possible. We did a couple of passes and came out victors, and we were going to go. The others seemed to have trouble with their car up the way, so we waited for them to come back and to do another pass. Well, on the third or fourth path, whichever it was now, I can't remember, there was magically a tree branch in the road that had not been there before after they'd been up and down the road all night and came back. I have no proof that they put the branch there, but let's just say I'm pretty sure they did not. And honestly, that was really messed up. Anyways, we do the pass, hit the tree branch, and the car goes a little bit out of control. My friend's quite a good driver and gets the car as much under control as possible, but we still end up smashing the back quarter panel of the car into a tree. Oh, neither of us were hurt, but the car was not drivable. The guys in the other car checked on us and then went about their business as it seems normal unless someone is injured in these situations involving these activities, unless they're close friends. Those guys were jerks because I know that they probably put the branch in the middle of the road, but again, I have no proof. Anyways, when we both looked at each other and realized neither of us were hurt, I told my friend, who by the way is very much an atheist or the very minimum agnostic, that had prayed before we indulge in our activities. They said it was probably the only time in their life that they've ever gotten goosebumps or chills and felt something spiritual. They're still pretty much an atheist these days, but I believe that one situation might have made them think there might be something else out there. Not the first time where I've gotten reactions from people when it comes to things like that. Well, I am super glad, Jake, that you were safe.
Yes, and that you are still here with us amongst the land of the living. So,
And not seeing us from the other side. Oh, there's those are two short stories that I have to share with the Eerie Travels crew. They are not my best stories or most interesting stories. And I know there's a little bit here to read, but I'm pretty sure they dictated it far quicker than can be read. Anyways, always looking forward to sharing more stories in the future from the bizarre ballad of Blindly. Much love to everyone in the Eerie Travels crew and extended travel family. Smiley face. Remember to be safe and wear your brown pants and carry a useful stick just in case. See you on the other side, Blindly Sama. P.S. I guarantee there will be far more loads of obnoxious comments in the YouTube videos.
Yay!
I love that.
Oh,
I love
wow.
that.
That was great, Jake. Thank you so
Yes.
much for those stories. Those are awesome. So,
Very cool. Okay, over to you, Mark.
Okay, greetings, travelers. Hey, greetings. Here is my personal flying saucer story.
Ooh,
It was
X is gonna
October
love this.
20th, 2012, on the west side of Dayton, Ohio. The sun was rising and it was starting to get light. I just left my girlfriend's apartment to walk to my car that was parked nearby. On the way to my car, I just so happened to be looking up in the sky, and from out of nowhere, there was a giant silhouette of a boomerang-shaped object with 5 dim lights underneath it. It was about 15 to 25 feet above the treetops, and it was as big as a school bus heading northeast. I was in absolute shock and awe. Oh, and my jaw dropped, especially when I noticed the object was completely dead silent as it flew over me. I live not too far from Wright Pat Air Force Base and thought at first it was an experimental aircraft. Ever since that one sighting, I've been researching and hoping they disclose it. Keep me anonymous as I don't want X after me.
Oh, well, anonymous. Mark, thoughts on this? Because this is a boomerang shape.
Boomerang shape near Dayton, Ohio. I agree. I think this is something out of Wright Pat. I don't think this is extraterrestrial. I think this is something we are working on and we are experimenting with. This is very similar to the Delta descriptions, and some of the leaked patents kind of point to something like this that doesn't make a sound, flies like a stealth aircraft, but is actual stealth. I mean, a lot of people don't realize the stealth aircraft makes a lot of noise. It just doesn't show up on radar. This type of stealth aircraft is the ones we think they've been working on, and they have lights on the bottom which is why I don't think extraterrestrial as much, because sometimes lights, aren't necessary for some of these extraterrestrial craft.
No,
But
that makes sense. But either way, that is creepy as hell, and I
on
don't.
October 20th, 2012, I will check on the MUFON website and I will document this for you since you haven't. And we'll see if anything else matches up from near Dayton. I grew up near Dayton, so I know that area well. And yeah, you see all kinds of weird things in the sky near right, Pat.
Next,
A nice juicy one.
I see that. Okay, here we go. I witnessed a Native American entity years ago when I was about 18. Okay, why did I get this one? Why couldn't I get the aircraft one? No,
Yeah.
no, this is what I get. Okay. I witnessed a Native American entity years ago when I was about 18. I used to hike in the woods a lot. No matter where we lived, I started hiking at a very young age. My mother was not the mothering type, so I was always safer in the woods. Then it became a habit. I preferred sitting in the woods than in the house. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that and what that
I
implies,
get that.
but I'm glad you found a respite. Okay. I climbed up on the huge boulder. We had just moved to the area. We always lived way out in the country, so I went exploring. I got up on this huge rock and noticed there was a small maple tree growing on the bare rock, no soil. Its roots were there hanging on so tight. I wiggled the sapling. Yep, it was on there tight. It was the middle of July, hot and stuffy, but it was really enjoyable sitting on the big rock under those massive trees. So I leaned back against the little tree and closed my eyes. I did this a lot. I liked listening to the sounds of the wood and guessing in my head what I heard and where it was at. Suddenly, I felt a blast of super cold air come down and hit me in the face. I opened my eyes and looked up, and the trees weren't moving. I shrugged it off. It was just a freak blast of cold air. So I sat back again, closed my eyes, and listened. I noticed too that the woods were very quiet compared to the woods I used to wander in next to our old house. I would hear blue jays and or woodpeckers or squirrels, leaves crunching under step. Was it a fox? Was it a squirrel? I could usually tell. Anyway, I was sitting back against the tree again with my eyes closed, and another blast of freezing cold air hit me in the face. It came up under my chin so hard that it blew my long hair back. Wah! Oh my
Mm.
God, I just got goosebumps all over my entire body. Ooh, okay. I sat back and thought, what the heck is going on? I wouldn't be sitting back and thinking that. I'd be running away. I thought maybe there was a cave under this rock and it was probably cold air was coming from. At the other side, opposite from where I'd climbed up, it was probably 10, 15 feet high down to the ground. I'd never been to this rock or this area, so I didn't know. So because I was afraid of falling off the high side to look over for a cave for any reason for this cold air, I crawled out up to the edge on my stomach to look over. Just as I looked over, another blast of cold air hit me in the face. I slide over more to see where the air is coming from. There, standing at the bottom of the rock, I saw a guy, 30-ish, with very long dark hair that hung loose. He had braids on the side. It was the early 70s, so a lot of guys had long hair. It didn't occur to me he was a spirit. I can see him to this day. This was 51 years ago. I knew nothing about spirits, ghosts, the paranormal, even Bigfoot. I didn't watch TV much because it was too much work. Yeah, I had to go out with a pair of vice grips to turn off the pipe around in circles that the antenna was hooked to so my mother could watch all of her soaps. We only got 2.5 channels, ABC, CBS, and once in a great while, the NBC station would blow in the weather. So without the woods, I had nothing better to do. I stared down at him and he slowly turned his head and looked up at me and smiled. It freaked me out because it was the last thing I expected to see was a shirtless, good-looking guy with very long hair standing in the woods. I pulled back to hide from him. I was shy. Then I slowly leaned back over to look at him, and just that fast he was gone. It was still not occurring to me what I saw. He had a bow in his hand. He was positioned where I could see he was starting to walk up the hillside next to the boulder. I walked around that rock and the hillside to see where he was. No one could disappear that fast. It probably wasn't until years later when these paranormal shows were coming on TV that maybe it dawned on me that he wasn't real. I really can't remember just when I realized that this was a paranormal entity. The cold blast of air they talk about getting on these shows explained a lot. It had to be him getting my attention. Sorry for the long story, but it's true. I actually wasn't afraid of him because he smiled at me. Linda. Linda.
Oh,
Don't
Linda.
apologize for the length of the story. Thank you for creeping me the hell out. Ooh, blast of
Oh,
cold air, Mark. What is that?
well, that's we talk about cold spots with a lot of paranormal activity where they drain the energy around an area so it makes it colder. And that's why so many people go with thermal imaging so that they can try to spot cold spots. That's also why people use laser thermometers and stuff to detect temperature variations. That is a common story, but the cold breath, like blowing in your face and stuff like that, that's interesting. I like that. And I like that she didn't think of him as anything other than a guy until years later when she put two and two together. And we get that a lot from some of these stories where people say, hey, I saw this weird guy and I didn't think anything of it. And I had an experience when I was younger that only recently, after I was on a few TV shows, that some friends of mine were there, said, hey, Mark, this was something unusual that happened to us and you don't talk about it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it because it just to me was a guy talking to us. And I didn't realize there shouldn't have been anybody in the place we were at talking to us. And now it makes sense. So this I like the idea. If any of you are fans of Reservation Dogs, they have a spirit guide, William Knifeman, who is this guy who keeps talking to the lead kids and he talks to others throughout the show. And he just keeps showing, oh, young warrior, and he just keeps talking to them and giving them advice. But he's just a dude. He's not some great warrior. He's like, oh no, I was there when Custer is like, oh, did you kill Custer? Oh no, crap, no, my horse fell over and I died before we even got there. just and
Well,
I just help others get to the other side and do their journeys and stuff. So
oh my gosh. Well, Linda, thank you so much for your story. It sounds like that
I
was
would
an
love to
amazing
know
part of
exactly
your
where that is.
childhood.
So
Okay, one
please
more, Mark,
reach out.
before break.
All right, and this is a short one, but I think this one's written to you, so I think you should do this one again. I know we're breaking order, but this one is right to you.
Oh,
So
it is. Okay. Erika. There's an exclamation mark, so I'm going to add that.
that's why I figured you had to read this one.
Yes. I thought I heard a cat outside and it sounded hurt, so of course I went looking for it. I was I'm already creeped out. I'm super creeped. Okay. I was walking in the woods behind my house and no cat, but found a weird shell on a pile of rocks that looked out of place. And do you know what I did? Left it the fuck alone. I love that. It's in all caps, travelers.
Yep.
It says, I left it the fuck alone. Pay attention. Also, doubting now that it was a cat. In fact, I didn't hear nothing in them woods, and I'm not looking again. I put some cat food out there. That's all I'm doing. Lydia. Lydia, you are one of my spirit animals, and I appreciate you thoroughly.
He is
You did.
studying at the Church of Erica's knowledge there. So yes, the
Oh my gosh.
of
Yes.
investigations from Erica. Erica, you need to make a degree for people who pass the test.
The full Erika test.
Yes,
It'll be a list of questions of what to do in specific situations. Now,
and
Lydia,
everyone should be item D. Leave it the fuck alone.
cologne. I will say this honestly. I love cats. I love animals. If I think a cat is hurt or something, I will go outside and look. I don't know how far I'll venture. But what do you think of the shell thing?
Yeah, that's
the middle of the woods.
something
Thoughts?
left them an offering, or is it, an offering table? Is it something like that? I agree. Leave it alone. And I like the idea that you left them cat food. So if nothing else, you're feeding the possums and other things in the area, and those take care of all the ticks and other, bad things around you. So good for you. But
Yes.
Lydia, I don't know what to tell you, but if you hear something in the woods, you didn't. That's the Appalachian rules.
Yes. I was going to say, Lydia, I high five wherever you are right now. I will high five you when we meet in person. You did the right thing. And with that, Let's take a quick break and we will be right back after these amazing sponsors with some more listener stories.
Destiny Beard, the lyrical soprano who will haunt your dreams. With her alluring melodies and intricate harmonies, this dark siren of wistful song shall capture your soul and lead you into the night. Check out Destiny's new single, The Haunting Is Over, with international musicians Sam Haines and Gary Bennett, as well as her other musical works at destinybeard.com.
The sweltering heat of the Florida sun breaks as a chill runs down your spine. A dark shadow looms from a nearby tourist trap. You didn't expect to find this kind of shade in Florida. If only there was some sort of travel guide to steer you through the spookier locales. Well, you're in luck, reader. Join author Mark Muncy and Carrie Schultz as they lead you through the darkest locations in the Sunshine State in creepy Florida. Available from History Press and at fine bookstores everywhere.
Okay.
Oh, we're back.
We're back. We're back.
This next one is actually from someone who had to be anonymous for reasons. And as I read the story, you'll understand. So let's just jump right into this one. So, okay, so here goes. I need to tell this because I just can't. People in the Bigfoot community would think I'd lost my mind if I said this publicly. However, one night in August of 2014 in Florida, I was out at my usual research spot. It had rained that afternoon, luckily, and it had cooled off a bit. The feed time was around 7 p.m. I had nestled into my spot an hour and a half before the feed time. I've been out there for 5 days on a solo trip already. So this is a Bigfoot hunter, and he's got a pattern for his studies. I always posted up in this spot as if it were as a convergence of game trails right on top of a ridge. There was a creek below, so after a few days of watching this spot, I started to learn all the animals. The same fox and deer would come through on time almost every day. It was really neat. Anyways, this one afternoon, the animals didn't come out. I was curious as to what was up and thought maybe that a front had come through that afternoon and had somehow disrupted their patterns. I'm not sure what happened next, but I seemed to have fallen asleep. Not sure how this happened. I was pretty focused on what I was doing, but I did. I suddenly woke up and now I'm looking down at the creek. The woods were foggy now. I don't know what compelled me to look to my left, but I did. And there, maybe 5 foot away, stood a Sasquatch. I immediately said, fuck, I'm about to die. I looked it in the face and the Sasquatch towered over me. It turned and walked away. I, for whatever reason, followed it. Not far
Okay,
behind.
pause for a second. This person is absolutely not of the Erika School of Survival. So just in the spirit of Lydia getting a gold star, this person is getting a timeout.
Okay. Well, I get the feeling there was some disorientation here, right?
I don't care. You don't follow the Sasquatch.
All right.
Continue
Well,
on.
I followed it not far behind, maybe 10 yards for what seemed to be a while. Eventually, I could see a bright light in the woods ahead of us. The Sasquatch never turned to look back at me, and it just kept walking. The light got brighter, and we ended up reaching a field. Not a big clearing, but big enough to hold a craft of some sort. I don't remember what it looked like because the light was so bright. The Sasquatch walked straight towards it and into the craft. Not sure why, but I followed suit. Next thing I know, I woke up back in the spot I was in, and it appeared as though it was all a dream. I finished the next 2 days of my trip before I went to the landowner's house. One of the first things she asked was if I'd seen a light a couple of nights earlier over the trees. At the time, I didn't want to say anything, so I told her no. I also didn't mention the new scar I had on my right hand between my thumb and index finger. I ended up telling her and said she knew anyways because she had seen my reaction when I asked about the light. Anonymous for reasons, but looking to see if any others have had similar experiences that have been afraid to report them.
Ah.
This
Did
is,
you go get that hand x-rayed? I'd be getting that hand x-rayed.
definitely something you can look at. I mean, we had that, our wonderful Adam Hutton episode where he had, has had some x-rays and found some strange stuff. Now, I understand this guy's problem because when we go to UFO conventions and you talk about UFO, if you try to bring up Bigfoot, they look at you like you're from another planet yourself. And if you go to a Bigfoot convention and you bring up UFOs or ghosts, forget it. They don't want to talk to you. They just move on. So I think more and more we're starting to realize some of these things are interconnected. And I would love to see anybody's response to this that might have had a similar experience or something that they've been afraid to tell. You can tell us anonymously, like this one did. We know this person. They are a big investigator. They're on some of the shows, but they told us, in private because this would ruin them. Because if they did this and mentioned this, they wouldn't be on any of the shows and they wouldn't be invited to, some of the conventions to speak. So I think very much there is a connection. I'm not saying it was a craft. I'm not saying
Well,
it
it's
was
true
just a
because people
dream.
have talked about the interdimensional things too. Like that's a whole thing. And we don't know. Preternatural, we don't know. Don't follow things. What the heck? I'm gonna have to make an Erica's rule book for Eerie traveling. Like we'll have the Eerie travels book and it will be Erica's rules and Mark's rules.
Rules.
And
Yep.
we'll see how many travelers we
Mine
have
is
left after
document,
they
document,
follow.
document. I'm sad you would marched away from your research spot and didn't have your cameras or your equipment so that you could have documented it. But also, if you're kind of out of it, you don't think about that. Try to remember, if you're out hunting Sasquatch, Bigfoot, your most important weapon isn't a gun, is your cell phone and your cameras and stuff. But
Yeah.
moving
Okay.
on.
Moving on, next one. This is from Eric. Okay, hello. I met you all at MegaCon and we talked about the blank for a moment. Well, hello, Aaron.
Hello, the blank.
I'm about to get freaked out. Okay, here we go. This is that story. I think it happened in 2011. This account was written in 2014 when recounting the experience. Coming back from Bradenton, which is in the Gulf Coast of Florida. So there you go.
Just
Okay, coming back
south
from
of Tampa
Bradenton
Bay.
one. What?
Just south of Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Coming back from Bradenton one night a few years ago with RB and M on the Tamiami Trail, somewhere between Cape Coral and Punta Gorda, where there are no street lights, we saw a flashing red and blue lights on the left side of us far ahead in the median. We approached it, wondering what it could be coming from. We finally got close enough to see. We found that it was a quote unquote person, leaving it open to interpretation, and that the lights were coming from something that it was holding in its hand. What? Oh, yeah. Okay. Where am I? Whoever this was extremely tall, moving fast for being on foot. Something seemed odd, so we decided to take a U-turn after passing it. As we turned around, I distinctly remember seeing it cross the road in a swift manner right in front of a very large truck, making it across without a scratch and without any reaction from the truck driver. That's not good. When we once again made a U-turn to go back towards it, we had lost sight. We got in the right lane and pulled slightly off the road and began slowing down to 5 to 10 miles per hour. When we finally found it again, it was off on the right side, standing completely still, and it looked like maybe a tall person in a white-gray morph suit. Ooh. Once right next to it, we were going as slow as possible, and just a few feet away, it then lunged at the car. What? No, this is why we don't follow things, people. Ah! M was filming on his phone with the light on. M lost that phone and video.
Of course.
Of course. We saw that it had no face and it had slammed into our car. We then sped away. When we got home to ours, we remembered that it had hit the car. We checked the area it had lunged at and found a handprint on the roof of the car. The handprint contained 3 extremely long fingers and a thumb.
Ah.
Oh, blah, 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 blah. Aaron. Okay. Mark, you're gonna have to talk about this for a moment.
Okay,
There's
well,
so many things wrong in my head right now with what happened.
so the red, white lights, I mean, I immediately think that might have been somebody, just with a, emergency signal or something, and that would have drawn my attention. But then seeing this quote person, that looked like someone in a white gray morph suit, that to me screams one of our non-human friends, a creature of maybe not terrestrial origin. I like that that's the new government way of describing it, non-terrestrial origin, because that leaves it open. It doesn't necessarily mean another planet, could be another dimension, could be other things. So 3 long fingers and a thumbprint. Well, I'd love to check out that car. I mean, I know this was 2014, but off chance your friend still has that car, like Double Stuff still has his car from Jake's story. Would be nice to see. But dang, that's all I can say is, and it slammed into your car. I'm glad you drove away, and I'm glad you're all safe. But that definitely sounds like something unusual, and I'm glad you shared that with us. And it was a pleasure meeting you at MegaCon, and I'm glad you were convinced to write this in.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Other than the fact that I'm completely creeped out, I appreciated it.
Yeah, I don't
fully.
think Erika's going to sleep for about a month after this one. So,
No, this is every time, man, every time.
all
Okay,
right.
so
Next up,
next up,
uh, from Amy. So, greetings, travelers. Greetings. Uh,
greetings.
I am convinced that my college dorm was haunted. I lived in the same apartment style dorm, 2 bedrooms connected by a kitchen, for 3 years in college. Off and on during the time I lived there, I would hear the sound of footsteps walking around the kitchen when all of my roommates were out. A few times I even heard what sounded like someone bumping into the table or moving things on the counter. I never saw or felt anything that seemed threatening. Mostly it just seemed like something was lost and found its way into my kitchen. My building was known to have a ghost of a little boy who fell down the elevator shaft chasing marbles. We called him Marble Boy. There were several reports of people hearing the sound of marbles rolling down the hallway upstairs towards the elevator shaft. I never heard the marbles, but I always wondered if maybe he was looking for a snack in my kitchen. The space that used to be my apartment was converted into a campus candy shop a few years after I graduated, so I hope he is enjoying lots of sweet treats now. That is my fun little ghost story. Hope to see you guys this year if you come to any of the East Tennessee area. Wow. Oh, what? That's a cute story.
It is. It just, I got the heebie-jeebies all the way down my body, and I am very happy that the ghost boy can have candy now.
Oh, I think that's great. Yeah, no, I'm sorry Marble Boy has to chase marbles, but maybe now some candy will give him some rest. So, yeah. But yeah, no, we got lots of college dorm ghost stories, and that's, like we discussed earlier, it seems to be they're drawn to that energy that of youthful folks. So that's why high schools and colleges are also fertile breeding grounds for these urban legends. But I think you definitely had something on the property. Thanks for reporting it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so let's see here. Holy crap! I've actually had an encounter with a sheep squatch.
Yes.
Okay, I gotta read that again. Holy crap, I've actually had an encounter with a sheep squatch almost 20 years ago now. Back when I was in the National Guard here in VA, Virginia, I frequently had to do my weekend tours at Fort Pickett in Blackstone, Virginia. And this was required that I drive up the night before, get a room for the weekend.
Yep, National Guard.
Yeah. It was late because I had a later shift at work and I couldn't get on the road earlier. But I'm traveling these old back roads because it was a quicker route. And this thing jumps out in the road in front of me. At the time, I just thought I was seeing things and that it was just a deer. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it couldn't have been. It was easily the size of a large buck, but it had long, shaggy hair and 2 horns like a goat. My family raised goats at the time, and it was way larger than any domesticated goat gets, but it was still too small to have been a horse or something that got loose. I never had the name for it until now and just chalked it up to something I couldn't ever explain. Thanks for bringing it up. Can't wait for you all to do a full episode on it. Hunter. Hunter. Ugh. Well, I'm so glad the Eerie Travels crew was able to clarify what this crazy creature that jumped out in front of you
I
was.
remember us bringing up the sheep squatch, so I'm glad that it brought back the memories of what you had seen. Wow, that's sheep squatch is, the Poplick monster. There's a few others that are well-known ones, but they are seen all over the United States and Virginia. I've seen reports from there. They basically goat-headed men. So
Okay, Mark.
I think this is the last one. Oh no, we got two more. So
Yeah, two
all right.
more.
All right, so this will be my last one. This is from Jennifer. Hi there. I happened to stumble across your table at a very crowded MegaCon this year, and I'm very glad I did. I've now started to listen to your podcast, and it's filling all my paranormal needs. Saved my wits when I got stuck in the I-75 nonsense. You're very welcome for that. We listen to lots of things on our travels, and even including our own show. So, anyway, I was scanning through all the podcasts, looking to see if you ever discussed Athens, Ohio, and Ohio University. I was a student there from 1999 to 2003, and the internet was pretty basic. But I remember a website dedicated to all the hauntings and weird phenomena related to this area. I personally experienced a few things there that were mildly spooky in 2 dorms. Biddy Hall seemed to be more active than Bryan Hall, which was featured on the website. My friends heard footsteps and furniture moving on the floor above us. There were no rooms on the floor above us. When I was out in the hallway, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a woman at the other end of the hall standing still and looking down the corridor. When I turned, no one was there. One night, my roommate woke me up with a trembling voice telling me our window just opened and closed on its own. This is a vertical sliding window, so opening itself would not be possible. This girl was very religious, so I don't think she'd be prone to believe paranormal activity, and she was certainly not on anything. I can see that young people living together can create a bunch of external energy that might be responsible for some of these activities, but the window one was weird. Bryan Hall was not as scary for me, but our elevator always creeped me out. It was rumored to have taken people up to the top floor, the attic, where they would witness a snapshot of time and history, people moving about in a time that had long passed. I never saw anything, but the elevator did take us to the top floor against our will once. I pushed the button for the 3rd floor and it took us to the attic. The doors would not close no matter what button we pushed. We waited and started to freak out and decided to exit and find the stairs. As soon as we stepped out, the doors started to close, so we jumped back in. It finally took us to the correct floor. I took the stairs more often after that. Athens is also home to the Athens Lunatic Asylum, which has its own stories. The woman's stain, the cemetery, and a general creepy vibe. The town is supposedly surrounded by 5 cemeteries that contribute to the occurrences. My experiences were mild compared to what one was able to find on the internet page back then, but I was wondering if you'd ever heard any tales or knew of paranormal explanations for that area. I'm sure something creepy is going on. That being said, I adore Athens and any spookiness that comes with it. Thanks for being so friendly at MegaCon, and I have a lot of catching up to do on your podcast, Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Yes, Jennifer. And if you pick up the book Eerie Appalachia, available in fine bookstores everywhere, I did do a lot of research on the Athens Lunatic Asylum because some of that has been converted into dorms for Athens University, or Ohio University there. And the graveyard there is amazing. Some of the graveyards there are amazing. And there are, as you said, Athens has 5 graveyards around it. Now, what was fun is, as I was growing up, everybody knows I have family land in Kentucky, West Virginia, but my father owned a bunch of harness horses. And that was actually at a farm in Athens, Ohio. So I divided my weekends between Louisa, Kentucky and Athens, Ohio. And so I got to learn that area pretty well. And I did hear many of these stories of some of the other local ghosts and lore of the area. And I think that was something Eric and I talked about when we were talking about doing the Eerie Travels books. One of the areas I want to do was the Miami, Ohio Valley area So that might be an upcoming project with a little more deep dive, but we will probably do an episode or two on that area before then. But Moonville Tunnel is one of my other favorite places right there. And if you haven't been to Moonville, it's worth your trip, Jennifer. Drive out and go to the old abandoned ghost town that's just right outside of Athens.
Yes, and we'll do some research. We threw it out. We just had Beau do the clickety clack and threw it on the future episodes list, and I'm sure that could be part of our ongoing travel guide called "Mark Will Go There and Erika Will Stay Outside." Thank you very much. That's
And thanks
travel
for coming to MegaCon and braving that crowd. Nothing scarier than I-4 and I-75 after MegaCon.
That is such a true story. Okay, so we have one last one. Here we go, Mark. You ready?
Oh my goodness. I'm ready. I'm buckled in. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Greetings, travelers.
Greetings.
I have been a fan for a while now. Yay, I like that. Okay. I finally decided to write and tell you my story. I'm sure you'll have some interesting things to say about it. I wouldn't have believed if I hadn't lived it. A little background. I grew up in Harlan, Kentucky. Where's Harlan, Kentucky, Mark?
Kind of on the drumstick side of drumstick. Look at his big drumstick. It's probably like right near the meaty part.
Got it. Okay.
Kind of eastern Kentucky.
I didn't think anybody outside of Harlan knew about our local man at the crossroads until I picked up Eerie, Appalachia.
Hey.
Wow. Okay. You're not doing shameless self-promotion. I'm reading a story, Mark. So here we go. When I read your story on it, I realized you all knew what you were talking about.
Love it.
Go ahead, Mark. I know you're not going to contain yourself.
Oh no, there's a crossroads demon in Harlan, Kentucky that he basically grants wishes. And the legend was that this one guy wanted to have his daughter find a new husband, and she wanted a child so badly because they needed a grandchild to keep the farm. And when she goes home to tell her husband that she'd made the deal with the man at the crossroads, he's like, "Oh no, I don't want a demon baby." You know, again, we back to demon babies. So don't, we can't do that. So we can't have any relations tonight because we don't want a demon child or a demon grandbaby. And what turned out was the next night, one of the other daughters met this very handsome stranger and had an affair. And so she had become pregnant. And the man was the man at the crossroads.
Oh.
So no one knows what happened to the child or anything, but he's a crossroads demon and he hangs out outside Harlan, which had a very terrible mine disaster. And supposedly he knew all about it and was able to help the families get back on their feet, but he also exacted a toll. Anyway, that's that story. You can read all about that in Eerie, Appalachia, available at fine bookstores.
Fine bookstores and Cracker Barrels everywhere. Okay, here we go.
Back to the story. Sorry.
His or her story. I'm actually not sure. When we get to the end, I'll know. Okay. When I read your story on it, I realized you all knew what you were talking about. I personally never dealt with him, but my great aunt supposedly made a deal with him one night, and she was found dead in Las Vegas 2 weeks later. Ooh, that was back in the 60s. I'll tell you that story another time if you want.
Please.
Yes, we want. Okay. My story occurred on the night just a few years ago. It was late July and super hot, as always here that time of year. We hadn't had any rain in a month. I was out late walking behind our house and heading to the barn to make sure everybody was locked in for the night with plenty of water. We don't have a lot of animals, but enough that it takes me an hour to feed them all. Well, that's way more than me. It takes me like 5 minutes with the dogs. Okay. I was going about my business with the Guernsey. What is that?
Guernseys.
What is a Guernsey?
That's a cow.
Oh, okay.
Like
With
a
the
milk cow.
Guernsey, I'm a big fan of cows, so I'm sorry I didn't know that. Okay. I was going about my business with the Guernseys when I saw what I thought was the headlights of a car coming up the driveway. Nobody comes up that time of night unless it's a family emergency, and nobody else was in town except for me. Outside, I saw that it was a bright orange and white light hovering about 10 feet off the ground between the house and the barn. It was shaped like a big orange bell with the brightest lights I've ever seen coming from all over. I had to cover my eyes as it was burning me. Suddenly I got very dizzy and I felt myself falling. I woke up and found myself staring at a dark night sky. I looked around and there was nothing else wrong, just me laying on the ground. There were no marks anywhere on the ground. I looked for anything unusual. Only one cow was missing.
Hmm.
Okay, but that's something unusual, right? Like a missing cow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's something you notice.
Yes. Days passed and I didn't tell anybody anything. I only told my wife when she got home that one of the cows was missing. She asked me if I'd been drinking because my eyes were so red. Finally, we found the cow's remains in a neighbor's field miles away. It was just the head, but the eyes and tongues had been taken out. Never found the rest of it. Police came because the neighbor found the head and they asked basic questions. The next day, I think I was visited by a man in black. Oh, why? Oh,
Oh,
oh, I don't like this now. Okay. A guy showed up at the barn just before sundown. He was in a black car and wore a nice suit. He said he was with the agricultural board and wanted to see if any of my cows might be sick after the police report. He seemed normal and I can't remember if I asked for his badge or name. It was like I was in a trance and I just showed him the barn and took him to the cows. He nodded and said everything looked good. Then he told me to be careful who I talked to as it might get blown out of proportion and they would have to shut down my farm for quarantine. He left. I hadn't told anybody about this until I typed the email. What should I do? Alan.
wow.
Um, oh,
That is
Alan,
classic MIB after an encounter. So, Alan, I think you've hit a few big points right here. And that kind of goes back to our Bigfoot explorer seeing the strange light and then blacking out and waking up. This is missing time. This is, yeah, a cow mutilation. This is 100% classic. So definitely, please, please, please. I know the guy told you not, but you reported it to us. If you could tell us kind of remotely where this is, or even exactly, Alan, if you want to send me another email, I would appreciate it. We would love to know exactly where this is so we can report it and see if it ties into anything else maybe happened in that area. Because, like you said, you kept it quiet. Others might have kept things quiet too. And there
yeah,
might have been something else there because this sounds big. This is Harlan, Kentucky. So I know the area. That area has a lot of unusual things. Like I said, we got the Crossroads guy, but there's been a lot of UFOs and other things in that same area.
it's true.
Wow.
The answer to the question is this, Alan. You should partially do what you feel comfortable doing. Thank you for sharing this story with us. However, since we don't exactly completely know what these people are and their intentions, you need to also deal with what you feel comfortable with and where you, that's what I would say. So I know now that you've given the information, Mark will put it into MUFON for you, and
Yeah.
he will do
If I
that.
can just get a date, that's all I really
Yeah,
need.
send the
So,
date. He will put it in MUFON. And if you want to just keep us updated on things, obviously, if there's a threat, I'm not saying kowtow to the threat, but there may be some legitimacy to abilities on their side. So
yeah. I mean, and
decide what
that
you
does
feel is
sound like,
best for you.
yeah, it does sound like they could have said, hey, we're shutting you down. I mean, there was a story recently about an Amish man who he serviced thousands of people and he got shut down by the government because reasons, no one knows why. That was up in Pennsylvania area. So don't put it past anybody to shut you down for anything.
Yeah. So
Oh
you
my
need to
goodness.
do what's best. But if you want to send the date, Mark will report it to MUFON. But
Yep.
listeners, if you have heard or seen anything around this area that or something that matches this, if you want to share it, please feel free. X, I cannot wait for your retort to this situation, which I
Yes.
can feel is incoming. And I'm telling you, he is one of the co-hosts to this show. X is.
I think he's definitely got a piece of things. So, wow. We had everything on this. We had a gray creature that attacked a car. We've had Sasquatch encounter with a flashing with a strange light. We've had, my goodness, this is the gamut, gang, and this is why we love our listener tales. And I do love that we now have the Erika School for Investigation and Paranormal Research. It should be a certificate. This is the Nope Award.
The Nope Award, the Erika School for Survival in Paranormal and Preternatural Situations.
And then the stamp should just be big Nope.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna put a shout out, Adulting Axolotl. I know you can do something brilliant with this. I look forward to it because
Yeah.
I think you could create the Nope Award that is one of these cross stitch that can hang next to Cocaine Bear and Mothman for us.
Yeah, and I love, you know, we had the flying saucers, we had Native American spirits. This is what we live for, gang. Thank you so much for sharing these with us. And if you want to share your own, visit the Eerie Travels website, click on the form, or you can email me, Mark at eerietravels.com, or email Beau at info@eerietravels.com. You can email Erika at eerietravels.com.
Why did you
But
give that out? Oh my
but
gosh.
it's there. It's there now. Let's see what happens. But you know, but we, like I said, no judgments. We love reading these stories. We're just reading them, gang. I know we've had some people say, oh, this couldn't happen there because of, you know, I know that area and it can't possibly have happened. We're reading what people have sent us. We are not, these are not stories we've investigated. These are stories we may investigate in the future. That's part of this, is we want to learn more about these things. These give us chances for more travels. So, you know, don't be that person who has to pick apart these things, but, you know, yes, go in with a skeptical mind. We'd like to know if you think there's a reason some of these things couldn't have happened where they did, or what these people may have wrong from their story. But we're going to look at it when we read these stories. This is what we're reading. This is what they encountered. This is what they experienced. They saw something strange that they cannot explain. We can't explain it either. So that's why we're here. With that, gang, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us for all these eerie travels. My goodness. Erika, anything you want to say to add to that?
No, you all, as per usual, completely thoroughly freaked me out. So appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. And I'll have fun not sleeping for the next few days. Thank you.
Yep. You keep the lights on and all that. So with that, gang, thank you so much. Please visit paranormalitymagazine.com if you want, and vote for us for top 10 paranormality podcasts. We always love that. If you do pick up anything there, use the code TRAVELS, get 10% off. It helps us. You can join our Patreon, get some extra content, get a live listener tales coming up, and some other fun things that we do for our listeners. And they got the first batch of goodies, some of them. So, and they've been sharing them on social media. Please, anybody, just follow us on social media. We love that too. And invite your friends. We want more tales. We want more travels. So get your friends to listen, get them to join in. All the fun. We want to keep growing the audience, and we want to explode with y'all. So with that, gang, I'm just going to say, when you're out in your travels, beware of native spirits blowing cold wind in your face. Be wary of going to sleep under a moonlit night and waking up with a time lapse that you can't explain, and possibly a missing cow. But with that, you do hear that strange noise out there, just leave it the fuck alone, and we'll see you on the other side.